This is a presentation on how to troubleshoot the matching issues. I will be starting with matching on hold in the accounting task, followed by open item being paid, ending with hints and tips. If you are wondering why I chose these topics, it's because we all have had, at some point in time, issues with the matching. Either open items being matched or open item being paid errors when we tried matching transactions which are not always easy to identify. So the first point is regarding the matching on hold in the accounting task, or open item being matched error when trying to match transactions in the manual matching screen. If you've already tried to restart the accounting task and it hasn't made a difference to reduce the stuck transactions, there are other suggestions to use in order to resolve this issue. Option 1 is to review the knowledge base articles created on the Sage portal, and I've linked here an existing one that I thought is more relevant. The solution consists in amending the MTC FLG flag in MTC batch table from value 2 to value 1 for the affected transactions, which is relaunching the matching on hold process. This might clear down or reduce the number of matching on hold records in the accounting task. The article talks about the cause of the error message as well as the solution to try resolving it, so please refer back to it when necessary. Most of the time, the suggestion works. However, if you are still facing this error, best approach is to analyze the transactions stuck in the accounting task. You can obviously run a SQL query to extract all transactions from the MTC batch table and based on the ACNAM reference to identify the records in the GEC table, ACNAM being the link between the two tables. This is one way to analyze data. However, there is a very good script put together by Sage meant to identify the transactions stuck in the MTC batch table and give you an idea on why they are not clearing from this table. The script is fully documented and it looks like this. In the prerequisites section, it explains how to implement the script and execute it in test mode or real mode and what each option does. It will then list the matching group stuck in the accounting task with a detail of the encountered anomalies through the log trace content. And the explanation of the messages that can be found in the log trace are explained in the encountered cases. I want to flag that this tool is only dedicated for exceptional cleanup and should not be used on a regular basis. If you would like a copy of this tool, then please log a new case with us on the case management portal so we can assist if needed. Option 3. There were situations that we came across, such as data migration, for example, where there was no obvious reason why the transactions were stuck in the MTC batch table. Transactions were successfully posted, had the expected values in, the payment was posted in the bank. However, the matching group was not clearing from the accounting task. In this instance, and as a last resort, the recommendation was to clear the transactions directly in the MTC batch table. This option, number 3 on the slide, should be used carefully and only after a full data backup. The person taking this action should be knowledgeable in the area and comfortable that this is the right choice after exhausting option 1 and 2 covered a moment ago. In conclusion, the open item being matched error can be addressed from different angles. However, the key is to analyze the data before clearing the transaction stuck in the backend. Another common error we get in the manual matching is the open item being paid error, which is linked to the TMP logs in the get due date table. We found that the solution provided to resolve this issue is not always applied correctly, causing further issues down the line. The open item being paid message occurs during the matching process if a temporary payment is already allocated to the open item, and while the matching is not done yet from payment posting. The objective of this control is to prevent someone to match an accounting line while his open item is already attached to a payment that is not posted yet, so to prevent overpayment. By default, this is caused by having a lock in the get due date table. When I mean locks, I'm thinking about the fields TMP care and TMP lock being populated. Is this good or bad? Is it really an issue? It depends, really. Based on my experience so far, most of the time there is a clear justification on why this happens. There are two situations that I want to flag here. The normal behavior for the TMP fields to be populated is when there is a payment linked to an invoice with a status entered in the system, but not posted yet. After posting the payment, the TMP logs should clear automatically by the standard process. Clearing the TMP values directly in the table when a payment already exists for the invoice is not the best practice and should not be applied. I will give you an example on the consequences of this action a bit later on during the hints and tips. I will further highlight some relevant information when troubleshooting this type of errors in X3. In general, it is important to understand the process that the user is following to post transactions. Is he using the system accordingly from a user perspective? This is what we need to ask and find out from them. I've seen scenarios where the user was using payment proposal for matching purposes. This should not be the case and it's incorrect. The user should not use this function to auto-match an invoice with a credit note, but to use instead BPNet settlement as one option. Don't forget about the prepayment allocation function within X3 used to match an outstanding payment with a relevant invoice received a bit later. So this is mainly for making sure that the payment on account is correctly matched to the invoice. When we get this type of errors, I'm referring to open item being paid or matched, it is important to analyze the data in the tables. In X3, we have, as you know, GEC due date, GEC entry D, GEC entry, payment ED, payment EH. I'm sure you are comfortable with these tables. But do you notice any anomalies, any differences to the data? This is what you should be checking and comparing the transactions in this table. In the GEC due date table, did you notice negative values for the TMP fields? It happens, and you're probably wondering why. What does it mean? The explanation is simple. It means that you've manually cleared the values in the TMP fields when you shouldn't. That's why we say that TMP values should be cleared with caution and only when needed, after making sure that the payment is in the bank and not in the process of being paid. To give you an example, we have a payment entered in the system for £4,200. So the status in X3 shows as entered. At this stage, in the GEC due date table, the TMP fields are populated with £4,200, right? TMP lock and TMP care, to be more specific. In the back end, if we manually remove the £4,200 to reflect nil amount for TMP lock and TMP care, when we actually post the payment and the status changes to in the bank, the system would try to deduct this value from the TMP fields, even if this is nil. Therefore, in this situation, since we cleared those values, the system, instead of clearing the £4,200 to zero amount following the standard posting process, it will deduct from zero the £4,200, which is the value of the payment. So we will essentially have 0 minus £4,200, which is minus £4,200 stuck in the TMP values. Hence why the negative figures. I hope the example makes sense and you now have a better understanding on why sometimes we see negative values in the TMP fields. Moving further into this section, it is also important to analyze the accounting task log, since there is a high chance there might be some additional errors in there to help identify the cause of the logs. You can generate the log from the 3 dots in the front of the line as displayed on my screen, and from there you can choose to show only the errors to reduce the size of the log. You can also export the log for a better read, as you are probably aware of. Now, this log tends to be bulky, mostly for big companies, and the recommendation is to archive the log after some time to keep it tidy and easy to investigate if needed. Another point that I want to flag when you troubleshoot this type of errors is to be aware of any customization on the auto journals. You can use the auto journal comparison for a quick check. Note that you need to be logged in the X3 endpoint to be able to run the comparison between X3 and the customer's folder. Another check that we can do prior to clearing the TMP values is to check if the invoice is present in the payment TD table, where VCR_num is the invoice number in the payment TD table. If no trace exists in this table and there is no obvious reason why the TMP logs occur, we can clear the TMP fields in the open item tables as a last resort. Thank you for watching, and I hope you found this useful.